Here's a step-by-step guide to painting a kitchen office nook. Along the way, I'll walk you through the steps I take and the sequencing and why I'm doing what I'm doing. The first step is to remove all the personal belongings from the space and clear off the counters. After this is done, the next step that I'm doing here is masking off the countertops and the cabinets up above. I'm using 48-inch masking film from 3M and their hand masker, along with 14-day safe release blue tape. I will also be removing all of the wall plates to get those out of the way, so it's faster to cut around the outlets and switches. And then I will also be putting down canvas drop cloths all along the floor and underneath the counter where the chair goes. I always try to save steps as I go along. For instance, pulling down the trim kits on the light fixtures up above, or the can lights, makes it very easy to cut around, especially when you're painting on a surface that has a knockdown texture to it, such as in this instance. I cut all the way around the room. I'm not worried about getting paint on the walls because I'll be painting the walls as well. And then I had forgotten to mask off the baseboards, so I'm using a little bit of masking paper because the baseboards come out a little bit and I don't want to get any paint specks or drips on the baseboards when I'm painting the walls. When I paint the ceiling, I really like to load up an 18-inch roller. Makes it super easy and fast, and then as I go along, I will make sure I go left to right or parallel to the light source. In this case, behind where I'm working, coming from windows on the other side of the room. I patched all of the holes, not that there were that many, and then wiped down to make sure that I didn't cover up any texture in the wall. I also did a quick full sand just to make sure I knocked down any imperfections on the walls prior to getting started on the cutting of the low. Here I'm cutting the low first, working along all the cabinets and the edges. If I happen to get anything on the cabinet, I can wipe it off with my 5-in-1 and a wet rag. Cutting knockdown texture takes a little extra effort just to go from side to side and work into all the little crevices created by the texture. Whenever I need to work into areas that have a little deeper texture or anything like that, I usually will go back and forth and also manipulate the bristles a little bit just by jiggling the brush a little bit. Helps push the paint around and into those little crevices in the knockdown texture. It's a little different than painting regular, smooth, like flat walls, level 4 finishes, things like that. After I cut all the low, I will then cut all the high, making sure I'm cutting along the ceiling line. And bringing the cut down low enough so when I'm painting with the large 18-inch roller, I have plenty of room so I don't hit the ceiling when I'm rolling. I usually like to make sure I take my time on the first coat, especially when painting knockdown texture walls or ceilings. This way I can ensure I get as much of the previous color covered in this first coat, and it allows me to go much faster on my second coat. When I get the roller out, I usually like to work the high first, get that done, and then keep everything wet as I fill out the rest of the walls. I also make sure that as I'm rolling the walls where I meet the edges, that I take my time and make sure I don't get any fat lips along that edge where the wall section rolls or turns into the other wall. Here I am cutting the second coat. As I said, it goes much faster than the first coat, especially since I took my time on the first. Then I'll roll all the walls out again, providing good even coverage of the new color. And once the second coat is dry enough, I'll start to remove all of the plastic and surface protection. The room back together. I also like to clean off wall plates if there's any old paint on them or if they're dirty before I put them back on. This is also when I will put any picture hooks or nails back in the walls. And then one of the other steps that I'll do is if there was anything that was missed or needs to be touched up, usually along the countertop, there can be some uneven spots where the caulk meets the wall. Then I'll fold up the tarps, get those out of the way, and the last thing I like to do is do a quick dry Swiffer just to pick up any dust. And now the kitchen office nook is complete. The fresh coat of paint and ready for use.